all agree tonight, all of the speakers have agreed that America has a very serious problem. Not only does America have a very serious problem, but our people have a very serious problem. America's problem is self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction. Self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction.
Well, today's topic, self-destruction. It really ain't the rap audience that's bugging. It's one or two suckers, ignorant brothers, trying to rob and steal from one another. You get caught in the mid. So to crush that stereotype, here's what we did. We got ourselves together so that you can unite and fight for what's right. Not negative cause. The way we live is positive. We don't kill our relatives.
Pop, 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 when it's shot, who's to blame?
Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 506 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can try to avoid self-destruction in the Bitcoin network. And it looks like BIP 444 might be how this gets done. I'm tentatively optimistic that the Knott's Core debate, which was never really a permanent solution. Knott's was kind of like the Band-Aid that would get us through to finding a permanent solution against CSAM. Matthew Crider had a really good video on it today. So did Bitcoin Not Crypto. And BNC's main concern was that we would be trying to fork a valid block, which seems contrary to Bitcoin's ethos. But I'm actually okay with that because until it's been fully validated, it's still at risk. And I think there's a window of opportunity there for the users of the network to step in and make sure that parasites and saboteurs do not get their way. I think it's kind of our last ditch attempt. But this is still just a BIP. So this needs to happen ASAP, I think. I wish 444 was what I could say, hey, we're headed for 444 Bitcoin. But ironically enough, it might just be BIP 444 that enables us to get to new all-time highs, because there's no reason for Bitcoin to be under 150,000 right now, right? We know that rates are coming down. We know that the government has to print to satisfy its debts. We know that artificial intelligence and tons of other disruptions in energy, battery, transportation, food production, all of these things are going to be delivering exponential deflationary returns to every person on the planet. And the fiat system cannot allow that deflation to be recognized. It cannot be allowed to happen. So the only way that they can do it is to absolutely print a metric ass ton of money in order to cause enough inflation to hide the deflation that's coming. And Bitcoin is really nothing more than a deflation measuring stick. I shouldn't say it's nothing more than that, but in one way you can look at it as a deflation measuring stick. So it's not that It's not that number goes up. It's just that the price of everything else goes down forever, and Bitcoin accurately measures it and captures it. However, is it possible that Bitcoin is waiting for us to decide whether we want to destroy Bitcoin's value by letting it be corrupted with CSAM and CP? It's possible. Not consciously, like I'm not trying to turn Bitcoin into a living organism, but the network is living. And I know people are blaming the whales. Oh, they're taking off profits, or they're trying to hold the Bitcoin price down for either good reasons or bad reasons. You know, good reasons would be like, oh, so more plebs can buy at this price, or we don't want Bitcoin adoption to go too fast and cause the whole world to collapse into chaos and World War III, as if we haven't been in World War III for years. Yeah, so it's possible that the network is just waiting to see if we fuck this up, right? Do we fuck around and let parasites and I don't know if trolls is the right word, but people who just enjoy transgression, people who enjoy ruining something for the for the sake of ruining it. Fight Club comes to mind when he asked him why he beat the shit out of that pretty boy, and he was like, he wanted to see what it felt like to destroy something beautiful, something like that, which is clearly comes from an insane person. So some of these people that want to destroy Bitcoin don't need any more reason than just to see what it feels like. There's power in transgression, and it's gonna take some unilateral action by the network to prevent it from happening. But BIP 444 has got me more optimistic than I've been for quite some time. And it could just be that Bitcoin is waiting for us to see, like, hey, are you going to fuck this up? Are you going to allow arbitrary data to corrupt perfect money? Or are you going to squash this shit and, let Bitcoin's price run? Because it's I think Dan said it was kind of embarrassing, even as Bitcoiners, watching the S&P 500 kind of outperforming, strategy and 3 months S&P 500 is up 7%. Bitcoin, yeah. So over 3 months, S&P 500 is keeping pace with Bitcoin. Looks like Bitcoin's down 8. That's unfortunate. The entire world should be seeing inflated asset prices, like across the board, with how much money printing has to take place. So it just makes me wonder if Bitcoin's having a little bit of an identity crisis and waiting to see if a black swan event like CSAM getting on the chain happens before we figure this shit out, or whether we actually save Bitcoin and maintain its pristine collateral status. Or else that's just me scapegoating and looking for an excuse or a justification why Bitcoin's not ripping and why strategy's not ripping. If Bitcoin's use case gets ruined or frustrated, then clearly a company built on not just acquiring Bitcoin, but leveraging it would suffer even worse because there's going to be some hardcore Bitcoiners that regardless of what ends up on the chain, they will truly just not give a fuck because it's, they're going to feel like, oh, well, I didn't put it there. It's not my fault that I'm now forced to host it. I don't think that's a reasonable take, but there are some people that will have that take regardless of what happens to Bitcoin's price. But if Bitcoin has a black swan and dumps to 50, I can't imagine that there's going to be too many people that will diamond hands and just gut through that kind of catastrophic event on strategy. There'll be way more pain and suffering with the Bitcoin treasury company space than there would be with Bitcoin itself, which is natural and probably should be that way. Everybody that invests in the Bitcoin treasury company space already knows that they have to accept the third-party risk, legal risks, all kinds of other risks. Now, you do get the potential for index inclusions with companies like this, like strategies in the QQQ. So that's a bullish catalyst. There's potential for them getting into the S&P 500. So it's not just all risks. There are some things that are available to Bitcoin treasury companies that are not necessarily available to Bitcoin, except in a trickle-down effect way, right? So if strategy gets into the S&P 500, they'll have passive inflows. That'll just give them even more money to buy more Bitcoin with. So in a sense, that would trickle down to Bitcoin with more and more Bitcoin treasury companies getting to the S&P 500. Unfortunately, the S&P ratings gave it a B-. As far as Grok is concerned, no company, I don't think, has ever gotten in with a B-. There have been a couple that got in with was it double B or triple B-, something like that. So clearly a ways to go. And I was kind of optimistic about, S&P 500, maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time, but surely by the third chance they'll get in. But if they are, they've already kind of made their bed and given them a B-. And if all strategy does is just continue to stack sats, then there's no reason for them to change, or to upgrade them from B-. And if they don't get an upgrade from there, it seems to be pretty unlikely that they would get into the S&P 500. So who knows? It could be months or years before enough companies are just flush with Bitcoin, like strategy is. And at that point, then the majority of S&P's customers would be bitching about the low ratings that they're getting for all this Bitcoin. And sentiment might shift towards saying, okay, we'll give you a 50% haircut on your Bitcoin holdings or something like that, which is the way that the lenders do it. So JP Morgan came out and said, hey, we're gonna let you use your Bitcoin as collateral. But I'm sure they're going to use some kind of formula, right? So if you have one Bitcoin, it's worth 100 grand. They might say, okay, we'll, in the event of a 50% collapse, we will give you, we'll say that your $100,000 worth of Bitcoins is worth 50. Something along those lines. That seems kind of rational. But it doesn't seem like the S&P 500 is going to be motivated to budge when the majority of their customers would be kind of rug pulled by giving strategy a higher rating for a product that is, way more attractive in a percentage rate. And so if you're going to say that the product is better and also less risky, that's kind of like an indictment on the entire rest of the bond market, and would be saying that 90% of their customers' product is ass. So that stance probably won't be reversed until the majority of their customers hold Bitcoin, and the incentive of the S&P ratings is to basically kiss their customers' asses. And if they only have one customer with a ton of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, there's really no motivation to crap on the other 99% of their paying customers. So it's a little bit of a conspiracy theory there. But to wrap this all up and take it back to the beginning, I don't know if Bitcoin's being held back by the core controversy and putting the network at risk. But it's a possibility. Everybody, I guess, would have to decide for themselves. But I think for anyone that understands that the money printing is, should be just supercharging inflation, and for Bitcoin to just be kind of chilling all year long, or since December, basically the whole year, it's kind of crazy. But by the same token, Bitcoin is new. Nobody really understands it, and it can do whatever the hell it wants. It can crash back down to 80, 70, whatever, if it wants to. And we'll all just be trying to figure out why. All right, so with all that being said, Strategy has earnings today. And I took a bunch off yesterday, and with it being down, but it's even more down bad today. So I will go ahead and trim off or roll out any other positions that I need to. This one, it's pretty close, so I might as well just get it over with. Luckily, today, the December 12th just came out. So yesterday I could not roll to December 12th, but today I can roll to December 12th. And let me just make sure I'm doing this right. Let's see, the 200 strikes worth 86. The 250 is worth 55. So that's somewhere between 286 and 305. Yeah, so I think I'll just roll. It does kind of suck because the liquidity's not good yet, since this expiration just became available. So the bid-ask spread on here is pretty shit. So I'm almost tempted to just wait. Let's see if I can get a fill for anything reasonable, like above 4. Let's pump this up a little bit just to make sure that I don't sell too low. And let me reshare without volume. Yeah, pretty sure that wasn't going to fill. Let's go to 4 even. Yeah, I think the liquidity on this one's going to piss me off. So I may end up not actually, if I can't get 390, I'm just not going to bother. Yeah. Yep, let's just cancel it. Just for convenience, since I had to trade today anyway, I figured I might as well roll these. But if December 12th liquidity is just not there, then I'm not gonna screw myself with a shitty bid-ask spread. I already took off the covered calls for the shares. I'll do that for earnings. That's more superstition than anything. This strategy is just as likely to collapse over earnings than go to the moon. I can't imagine that strategy. I can't imagine what they would say that would send investors to the market to pump this, right? Like, we already know what Bitcoin's price is. It's not like there's going to be an earnings surprise or anything, but who knows? But on a stock that I believe will go up and to the right over long periods of time, binary events like earnings could be the days where those moves happen. It generally happens with the TradFi companies, and I have no reason to suspect why strategy would run up or down based on earnings. But I don't mind missing out on a day or two of theta, just to be sure. Oh, so I did say that I think I was waiting for 275 or below to peel off some more shares and add more leverage. I'm already pretty negative on theta in this account, so do I want to do it here? Sure, why not? Let's sell 100 shares. Oh, damn it. I think I just tried to sell them in this account. That's annoying. All right, I guess I'm doing it here. Yeah, I forgot to select the main account. Doesn't really matter that much, but I already had a ton of leverage in this account, so I was kind of trying to avoid more. All right, so that gives me 26 grand in buying power, and the 200 strike calls cost 86, so that would actually, I should be able to get 3 of those. Those are 0.79 delta, so they're pretty reasonable. All right, well, I'm waiting on those to fill. I can go ahead and sell my covered calls. I should be able to get 3 more of those. I guess that went through. There we go. I didn't hear the ding. So as long as I'm selling the 285 or higher, I should be okay. And this one I am gonna put here. So let's go. Okay, that worked. All right, let's check. Let me ungroup. And group. All right, so this was kind of nice. I dollar cost averaged my my 200 strike calls from like, I think they were like 15 grand or something down to 11. So it makes this not look as bad. The 250s are still pretty bad. But I'm starting to get nervous that these might go out of the money. So I didn't really want to add any more of those positions. A little too risky there. 0.64 deltas. So this whole Poorman's covered call section is net positive 43 delta, or excuse me, 43 in theta. So I'm losing this much on the long calls, and I'm gaining this much theta. And that leaves me with 2 grand left over. So with the dippy dip, I will add some more 900s here. 2 grand would almost get me 10 of these. So let's see, 9. How much buying power? 27. That would give me to an even 40 here. March. Oops. Yep, that'll do it. Okay. That is even more leverage, which I think if we go below 250, I can probably stomach taking off another 100 shares and adding more leverage. But below that, it would be pretty hard to justify. At that point, I might just be hodling for dear life at that point. All right. These are ready to roll. They've been on for 2 weeks. They're worth half of what I sold them for. And let me just change the trading. Similar situation here. Bad decision buying the 300s because now these are out of the money. I would have to sell approximately the 370s or higher. And with the 250s, what is that, 330 or higher? So at least 350 is probably a good middle ground here. But again, I'm gonna try to hit this 40. Oh wow. So I said 350, which is literally the top of the frickin' options chain here. So that's crazy. Let me put this up a little bit. Let's see if this works. $350 is still well above the expected move. So I don't hate it. And it's even above the 1 standard deviation line. Yeah, the liquidity here, though, is really kind of pissing me off. I might actually just roll out to 50. me see if I can actually get fills. See how much tighter the bid-ask spread is here? Generally don't roll out this far, but... And all that really did was just chip away at my margin use a little bit. Oh, actually, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to go to the 350, did I? So 275. Yeah, actually not bad. It's a little bit risky for these three, selling the 350, but should be fine by averaging out the 250s. Plus, there's a ton of leverage here. So that gave me about $2,000. Yeah, I don't think I need to add any more leverage here just yet. Tesla came back down to earth a little bit. Had this on for a week. Should take another couple of week or two to roll that one. This is ready to roll, even though it's only been on for 7 days. So I think I'm just going to go out to 50 days again. Oh, let me make sure where I need to be rolling this to. So 250 strikes worth 55. So at least the 305 or higher should be pretty easy to hit. But I don't want to short myself too much. But I also don't want to, let's see. Sold them for 8. They're worth 4. In order to get 8 again, I would have to roll to 330. Let's split the difference between 330 and 350 and do the 340s. All right, this is the IRA. Who knows if I'll even ever see this money. So let's take the 2,900. I guess I was buying shares. $10. There we go. Spends most of that buying power. And the only thing I have left is my spending account. This is kind of close. It's only been on for a week. I guess I'll let it cook. I kind of don't like the fact that I'm letting bunch of my different accounts be stuck in different expirations. It just means I have more checking to do and gives me more opportunities to make mistakes. But that should do it. What's up, Tyler? Just have one question. How many chairs are you sitting on right now? I don't sit anymore. I went quadruple maxi, and I don't even. So I have a stool next to my desk. I have a standing desk that'll raise and lower, and I've got like shoe boxes and my old laptop on the stool. So the only time I really sit is, I guess, if I'm watching a football game. And but yeah, I bought this desk when I was still working IT, And I told myself that when I got tired of sitting, I would raise the desk, but I would just zone in and the whole workday would pass and I would just sit all day. So then I raised it and told myself that when I get tired of standing, I'll lower it and sit down. And I basically just do the same thing. I completely zone out and I just stand all day and forget to sit down. So when we're recording True North, I'm standing. When I'm recording these, I'm standing. I'm pretty much just standing all the time. Chairs are pretty optional. What's up, dude face? One chair made from a swarm of cyber hornets. What's up, Trace? Yeah, I busted out the old school today. Okay, so the 5K account still clinging on by a thread to 10 grand. So let's see. With a more expensive stock, the covered calls that I sold on Strive, I would have taken these off. But if they're going to make me bid a nickel, I don't want to risk having to pay $5 when I could just let this expire worthless on Friday. So that is what I will do. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, sometimes you get a blended fill price when you're rolling something. So I'm just going to check a roll. And I don't know if the market makers do this on purpose or what, but you've got to fill the option that you're closing, and then you've got to fill the option that you're opening. And it's kind of like, if it's 3 cents on one and 2 cents on the other, maybe those average out to the one, they offset to the 1 cent. But even selling the $1.50 here for next week seems kind of shitty. Like, this isn't worth my time to try to. The only way I would even get a fill would be at the nickel. So yeah, I'm not doing this. I'll just let that expire worthless. As a rule, I don't really bag hold, but in this case, this position is so small that it doesn't matter. If this expires and then the price rockets up to $2 again or $2.50, I'll use that opportunity to put the covered calls back on. But with more expensive stocks, I never really bag hold. Looks like these will get called away, so that'll give me a little bit of buying power to spend Monday. What was this? Did I sell? Oh yeah, I think way back in the day I sold. When did I roll? To the October 15th? No. I rolled to 11/28 and got paid 15 cents. But these might end up getting called away. And this is an example of me not bag holding. So even though my cost basis on Strive was probably $1.60, $1.78, I was willing to just accept a few bucks. And if I'm forced to exit this position at a loss, that's fine. Investing in the market includes some losses. My brother-in-law and I copy traded Cypher and Wolf cash secured puts. All right, the 355, this is ready to roll. So let's make sure that I'm rolling to a safe strike. I own the 300 strike. That's worth $33. So as long as I sell the 330 or higher, I should be good. So again, I'm probably going to avoid this strike. I don't generally like rolling out this long, but with these shitty bid-ask spreads on the December 12th, kind of just don't like it. So I'm rolling the 355. Let me see what I can get at the 350. Nice round number. $6, I'll take it. All right. That should give me just a couple $100 of buying power. So probably won't be in a rush to spend it. Yeah. $3,400 in options collateral, $3,600 in cash. That's $272 of buying power. I suppose I could add another one of these debit spreads. Maybe two. Average my costs down a little smidge. Yeah, nothing else to mess with unless the IBIT call is ready. But I doubt it. I think I sold it for $1. Actually, $1.40 and it's worth 70. So this is ready to roll. Let's do... IBIT should be way more liquid because it's an ETF. And I'm rolling the 70. Can I get meaningful premium at 70 again? No, because there's no 70 strike. But I remember I did sell it for 140. Let me just double check. What is my long call worth? So I've got the 55 and it's worth 14. So that gets me to 69. That's convenient enough. So I guess I'll sell the 69. And let's roll. Let's move this down a little bit. Low fill likelihood, so let's do 0.6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is low. 64 is high. All right, that's fine. Cool. There we go. Yeah, that's basically just how this works. You sell it, you try to buy it back for half price, you try to roll it back out for full price. So this is basically doing its thing. Unfortunately, this has been losing value, so this is down $6. Let's just look and see if this is an overall winner or loser. Let's check my history. Bought for $20. Got paid $116. Let's see. 116 minus 31 is 85. And then got paid another 75, so that's 160. Got paid another 60, so that's 220. Got paid another 70, that's 290. Got paid another 50, that's 340. Rounding this to 93, sorry, 430, and another 64, so that's 495. So lost 6, gained 5. So this is actually, this poor man's covered call overall is down a buck. Not the end of the world. But with IBIT down 8%, it's not so bad. It's a good reminder that covered calls and poor man's covered calls are bullish. Some people think they're bearish positions because they're limiting upside, but they are bullish positions. And if your underlying is not up, then you can't be up. Unless you're selling extremely aggressive covered calls, it's in general not going to be enough to keep up with the plummeting price. And I'm generally never that aggressive. I never really, I don't do chart work and try to time those things in general. Let me see my wolf. My average cost on wolf is 1488, and I'm going to get called away at 14. So that on paper that looks like a loss, but I collected a ton of premium on the way up. So my true cost basis is probably 13 or below. So that's fine. I think that will do it in this account as well. Trace says, what are your thoughts on the sentiment of Strive on X? I feel like early last week it couldn't have been any worse. Yeah, it's bad everywhere. And there are people who have their particular Bitcoin treasury company in their crosshairs, and the sentiment is particularly bad on that one. And in general, that's usually whichever company that they YOLO'd and got fucked. They will target for their with their pure hatred. But some people are just feel like they fell for an okie doke, and probably kicking themselves because it's like, oh, you know what? I should just be a Bitcoiner. I could be up. I could have put all my money in the risk-free rate or the the sovereign asset. Why did I let myself get distracted and lured into bigger gains and putting myself at risk? And so I think a lot of people who diverted some funds from Bitcoin into Bitcoin treasury companies are, kicking themselves and kind of not really trusting the trade or the investment in a long-term fashion. It's pretty easy to diamond hands and hodl Bitcoin because it's a sovereign asset that no one else can control. But it's a whole nother matter to have patience and conviction with a Bitcoin treasury company. And so I think there are a lot of people who are just like, my bad, I should have just been a Bitcoiner this whole time. I got fooled by the Bitcoin treasury companies. They're all shit coins. And now, for as long as the market holds those companies' price down, I'm going to continue to shit on them and take out some of my frustrations for losing money. But Strive is an interesting one because they had only completed their reverse merger like a week before they did an acquisition. And let me just see if I can find Oracle. So I worked for an IT, not an IT company, but I worked for IT for a national healthcare company. And the software that I worked on was called Cerner, which I don't think exists anymore, right? Because they got bought by, yeah. And so they were acquired by Oracle. And let me just find out when. When did Oracle acquire Cerner? We want the quick answer. June 8th, 2022. So June. So what usually happens when a company buys another company is the company that is the purchaser, the one that's buying the other one, gets hit, right? And you generally have to acquire that other company at a premium. So in a sense, it's kind of a dilution, really. Every acquisition hurts the buying company, and the company that got bought out basically gets paid a premium to ride off into the sunset, above fair market value. That's the only way that you can get the company that's being bought to agree to it. It has to be kind of a sweetheart deal for them. So Oracle was trading at 82 on February 4th. Boom. 2 weeks later, after they acquire Cerner, they're down, what the hell did I say it was? 82 to 76. And then who knows how long it takes for that merger to be approved. I'm not saying 100% that all of this is overhang from the acquisition, but it doesn't help, right, in the short term. Now, Oracle is fine. The customer support, I can personally say, got worse. Like Cerner's customer support was pretty fucking bad before this merger, and then a bunch of people got let go. Of course, you trim haircuts, and it just continued to get worse. And Oracle went down as low as $60 a share. But then, of course, now all of Cerner's profits become Oracle's profits, and the market forgets that they were diluted, and now they're actually making more money. So maybe if they were to integrate this acquisition into their company better, now they're making even more money, and now Oracle's at 125, Oracle's at 183, Oracle's pumping with everything else, $308. So in the short term, buying Cerner hurt the company in the first 6 months, and then apparently it was fine, or the market, they might have had other irons in the fire. Who knows what the hell they were. I haven't been following Oracle this whole time, but I remember this happening because I was working on the software in the middle of it. So that brings us back to ASST. They did their reverse merger, which the market has uncertainty about. It pumped in May, and I don't know, was this the reverse merger? Anyway, you're going to see a bunch of pumps here. And then the Semler deal is going to take, I don't know, another couple of months probably, right, to finalize. So there's going to be a bunch of uncertainty here. But it just may take a while, right? It might take, I don't know. I already lost my Oracle. There we go. But let's see. That was, what did I say? That was June of 2022? Yeah. So it took June of 2022, they were 82. It took them until January to go back above where they were when they acquired the Cerner Corporation. Does it take 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 5 years for Strive to do the same thing? I mean, they're also going to get pumps from Bitcoin. If Bitcoin races up to 150 or 200, I'm sure Strive gets a pump. But that's not really, you can't say that that's something that the company did to earn that money, right? It's kind of like if you've got a teacher that's getting promoted because all of their students are getting straight A's, but then if you look back at how those students did the year before and the year before and the year before, they were always getting straight A's, then the teacher doesn't have jack shit to do with it, right? So what you want to look at is Strive capturing a meaningful amount of Bitcoin compared to other companies? Are they making moves? Are they acquiring Bitcoin in a more accretive way than a company that I might say was a shitcoin company, something like a Naka? But sometimes I see, blanket tweets and they're like, Strive Naka and I don't know, pick anything else, shit coins, rug pulls, blah, blah, blah. And you really can't trust what I'm saying, because it seems like I will at some point become an independent contractor of Strive based on being on the True North pod since they were acquired by Strive. So I won't be able to joke anymore. Like last night I joked how I was an unpaid host, and as far as I can tell, at some point I won't be able to make those jokes anymore. We still haven't finalized anything. Nobody's signed anything. Nobody's made me an offer, but it was kind of fun to joke about working for free for the last year. But so anyway, you can't trust anything that I'm going to say with Strive, because you should assume that there's some kind of bias there. But, for me personally, just knowing a couple of the guys that are on the team, I'm assuming that they will execute at a high level. And a company like a Naka, I don't think really belongs in the same sentence, because they already have a history of shitcoining, at the Bitcoin conferences, and kind of talking in a way that hypes up their own stock. But yeah, these types of growing pains are expected. Now, if we're looking at the Strive 5-year chart in 2030, and it doesn't have some kind of meaningful outperformance of Bitcoin, then yeah, that would be a failure. But that's the measuring stick for any Bitcoin treasury company. I mentioned it on the True North call last night, that's my, that would be one of my falsification criteria, that the MSTR trade was a failure, right? The 1-year chart, not so much. I can handle strategy going down for a year. And it's going to be, oh man, the bears are licking their chops. On November 20th of 2025, when the 1-year chart is measuring the blow off top to the current price, if we're still trading at fucking 250, 275, even 300, being down from 500 to 250, when the 1-year chart shows a 50% decrease and the 1-year chart for Bitcoin shows up 30% or whatever. Let's see, what was it on November 20th? So it was up 94. So 94 to 108 is only like 10, 15%. But anyway, the point is, bears are furiously masturbating and cannot wait for November 20th, when they can, and just mark it down now. Between November 15th and November 25th, December, whatever time frame, there is there are going to be tons of screenshots of the Bitcoin 1-year chart showing up, 10, 15%, and the strategy 1-year chart showing down 50%. Oh my God. All of their dreams, all of the bear dreams will be coming true on November 20th, 2025. So just be ready for that. But anyway, yeah. So if in 5 years, if I'm looking at the strategy chart, and it doesn't have a meaningful Bitcoin appreciation, then I will consider the strategy trade a failure. And somebody, I made the mistake of looking at the comments, and somebody said that I had moved the goalposts on my thesis, which I was kind of confused about. I considered asking them to explain like what exactly I moved the goalposts on, but then I kind of just decided that I didn't care, so I kept it moving. There's a difference between, saying that you were wrong about something, changing your thesis, changing your prediction, changing your strategy, and actually moving the goalposts. Like moving the goalposts is more of a logical fallacy where you change the rules by which you were making your decision instead of keeping the rules consistent and then changing your mind. So, but anything's possible. Maybe I moved the goalposts, but hopefully not. But yeah, that would be one falsification criteria. And I felt like I needed to mention it because people have been clamoring, like they want us to comment on Strategy's sub-performance compared to Bitcoin. And I already made my opinion known on that. I think that Strategy has a little bit of a hangover from moving from convertible bonds over to the prefs. I think long-term the prefs will be more accretive than the convertible bonds, but it's taking some time to be able to get as much leverage as they can handle and as much as they want. So until the preferreds mature, this could continue. This could absolutely continue. But once the ATMs on the preferreds are just churning out as much Bitcoin as Strategy can handle, then I think we see a reversal here. But I have no idea how long that's going to take. And then this could also be a little bit of a hangover from what I mentioned about whether the Bitcoin network is nervous about a black swan event. I don't think anyone in the investment community, Bitcoin or TradFi, is worried about money printing stopping anytime soon. So assets should all do well. But, there's a couple of things to be nervous about on the short term. So that may be holding things back. If Bitcoin goes to zero because of a black swan event, you kind of don't want to be holding leveraged amounts of that asset on your balance sheet. So investors could be holding that against Strategy as well. Yeah, you too, Alec. Trace says, very promising to see an example like this, especially when there isn't even Bitcoin involved in the Oracle M&A. Yeah. And Strive's doing something a little bit different, right? I mean, so they've got the Saylor playbook, and Saylor has said that he's not really interested in acquiring companies. So when Strive kind of went out and did their own thing, and I don't want to say that they did it rashly. I don't want to say that they made a rash decision, but it definitely happened quickly, right? Because we had the Bitcoin unconference, and from what I understand, it was kind of like, the principal parties got together, like, hey, what about this? What about that? Like, fuck it, let's make it happen. And then a bunch of highly competent people get in a room together and want to make something happen, they freaking make it happen. And so this acquisition happened like super quick. And, unfortunately for me, Jeff got pulled into that. So he had to cancel our sauna date that we had in New York City, but I went and it was fucking badass. There's a sauna in New York City that's powered by Bitcoin miners. So they've got sauna, they got hot tubs, they got steam rooms. They've got a couple different cold plunges, which is excruciating. And so I have no reason to believe that this is a rug pull, right? This is how pipe shit works, right? The pipe investors get their shares. They can dump on the market if they want to. Maybe people who are new to TradFi are, that's something new. I learned it a few years ago with Nikola. Nikola doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. But I used to sell cash secured puts and run the wheel on Nikola when it was supposed to be the next Tesla. And they ended up getting delisted. The founder went to jail, I believe. He was found guilty of fraud. I don't know if they actually put him in jail. I think they did. Anyway, I think he got a pardon. I think Trump pardoned him or something. But and then he came back out and he told a story that maybe he was getting railroaded, which I couldn't care less what's true. But the point of me even mentioning that was that those types of events, I think, are different, right? Well, I'm sorry. No, Nikola had a pipe had some pipe investors too. And as soon as those motherfuckers got their shares, they dumped. And Nikola's price went into the toilet. And I was like, yo, what the hell? So it just taught me that you have to be aware of these things. And if you're not, even though they're right there in black and white in all the disclosures, that is you not understanding how the system works. That's not the company rugging you, right? You can argue whether pipe deals are the best way to get money, but that's how it works, right? The pipe investors are putting their money at risk in a way, early, and they have to be rewarded somehow, right? So if the company came out and was like, oh, by the way, wink, wink, you better hurry up and sell your shares before the pipe investors, sell theirs. Like, you're forcing the executives to figure out who they want to rug. You're going to rug the pipes and rob them for retail, or are you going to assume that all of the investors read the fucking disclosures and take responsibility for their own stuff? So this type of shit happens with pipes, and it's pretty normal. But yeah, I mean, as long as you believe that the executives are on the up and up, then this should be fine. If you don't trust the executive team, then you shouldn't own it. What did I say? There was a quote that I heard. It went, if you wouldn't own the entire company, you shouldn't own a single share. So if you don't think that the Strive team is going to execute, and you wouldn't, if you had the money, if you wouldn't buy this whole company, then you probably shouldn't own a single share. I think that makes sense. Kobe says sentiment seems to be just wait till next month, a lot like 2021, 2022, and it feels like none of those catalysts are coming to fruition. Yeah, that can absolutely happen. And I'm not saying anything like terribly in confidence, but after the shows on Wednesday night, we generally talk for at least another half an hour to an hour, And Jeff said something like, with all of the money printing that they have to do, why would Bitcoin go down from here, right? Regardless of cycle theory, blah, blah, blah. And my response is that it shouldn't, but it's Bitcoin. It can do whatever the fuck it wants to do, right? I mean, Bitcoin is going up forever, Laura, but sometimes it goes from 65 to 16 for no fucking reason. Like, was Bitcoin worth less in December of 2022 than November 2021? No. It was worth more. Like, the network was stronger. There were probably more hash power here than there was here. There were probably more people who owned Bitcoin here than they did here. There were a bunch of people who sold, and we got a new investor base that diamond hands, bought the top at 65 and never sold here, and never sold here, and never sold here. But Bitcoin can just go up or down. It just really does not give a shit what we want it to do. And it's almost unfathomable to me that all we're going to get is 120. But it was kind of like here. I mean, everybody thought we were going to 100. And I can't remember if this was FTX or whatever the hell happened here that cut our bull run short. But there's always something. There's always some bullshit. And I don't know if it's going to be CSAM and, Core fucking up. That's going to be our black swan this time. Or it'll be Tether. Or, whatever it is. Something will sneak up on us and cause Bitcoin to dump 50% when we don't think it should. But, with all of the money printing that they're going to have to do, I think Bitcoin should be at 200 now. So the fact that it's not is already something that I don't comprehend. So is it more like if it should already be 200 and it's not, it might as well just crash to 50. Crashing to 50 would be pretty fucking bad. But there's no reason why we can't revisit 84 gang again. 60 would be pretty bad. My hopium includes pumping enough that a 50% drop won't put us below 100. Like that would be cool with me. The next bear market is if 100 is the bottom of the next bear, I'm cool with that, regardless of like what number we hit. But like I said, Bitcoin doesn't care what I want or think. Let's see. Alex says it's important to remember that other people are investing on other time horizons than we are. Lots of noise from people that are trading short-dated calls, for instance. Yeah, I'm in all those calls. I am in all of those calls, sadly. Trace says, I think the 5-year time frame when determining success of the treasuries is perfect, very simple and explainable. Yeah, and if if 5 years goes by and Bitcoin is up, whatever, 200% and strategy's only up 150% and they're trading below 1x MNAV, then I will, someone will probably bookmark this post or this video and throw it in my face, and I'll have to eat crow and all that good shit. But I won't care because I'll probably have, at that point, I'll probably just have to run and hide. This space was a lot more fun back in November when, I would jump on a space and people are like, oh man, thanks. I paid off my house. I did all this. Everybody was fucking imagining the Lambos that they were going to buy. And a year later, and it's kind of like, your name's mud because we we didn't predict the last 11 months. Let's see. Dude Face feels like it's a real slow grind to ultimate capitulation, waiting for the headlines. Bitcoin is dead. Then I'm going to go super bullish. Till then, I'm writing calls close to the money. Yeah, man. It could totally happen. What's up, Dana? What's up, Deeply? Things are well. My port is down bad, but I'm fine. I can still afford to eat meat. What's up, AB? Not gonna lie, I was looking at used Lambos on Facebook Marketplace. Oh my god. Yeah, that's a responsible Bitcoiner that's not paying retail for their Lambo, just used. You are a true one share, one used Lambo, toxic Bitcoin maxi. I love it. All right, so that's all I got. Keep an eye on the Bitcoin Knots thing. Like, that debate is kind of over. Knots was necessary, if for no other reason than to force the network to address the arbitrary data spam CSAM threat as a real problem and get a real fix. Check out Matthew Crowder's videos. He's covering it every day. Probably will require a user-activated soft fork that would prevent disaster in the event that someone tries to get some disgusting pictures on our precious blockchain. And as far as I can understand it, is once the system would become alerted that that block was validated, then the miners would kind of have to come to the rescue and agree not to build on that block. And then, you know, whoever the miner is that guessed the next block, we would start building on that one. And then that would become the longer chain, and the CSAM block would become orphaned and never make it onto the blockchain. Some people are, the purists will say that that's not cool or whatever, but if the alternative is letting immoral material on my hard drive, then I'll take it. I might be even the most militant, because if that doesn't work, I would totally be for hard forking it. Literally hard forking the chain to purge the arbitrary data off of the blockchain. I know it's supposed to be immutable. I don't give a fuck. I can't be coerced into an immoral position for any reason. I just can't be bothered. Does that mean Bitcoin takes a hit, drops to 50K, and then has to build, claw its way back up to relevance again? I guess. But it's better than having CSAM on a distributed ledger throughout the world and becoming worthless. So, it would have been great if the filters could have been the ultimate solution, but a soft fork is probably the next step and necessary. And if that don't work, then we'll just hard fork it and Cork can go fuck themselves.